Have you recovered from the savaging that you received last night, Keith Andrews?
Morning, lads. Yeah, he was funny, wasn't he? I'm a big fan of what they do anyway, so it was a bit surreal getting it right in front of my face.
Yeah.
What's it like for the first time when you hear an impression of yourself done to your face?
I don't think he does the best one of me. I think it's the other lad, but I wasn't going to tell him that last night.
Oh, don't worry. We're clipping it and sending it to him right away.
I wouldn't expect anything less.
So what we charged you with the responsibility of picking an Ireland team. If somehow miraculously we had made it to this World Cup and we're suddenly up and running, and you've gone for a pretty interesting formation. You've gone for three at the back because it's like fashionable at the moment.
I just think going back to the Turkey game in March, and then he tried it again against the USA. I just think it suits our personnel at times, the way we can set up. We all know we haven't got an out-and-out goal scorer at the top end of the pitch, so it gives you a chance to get two up there. I don't think we have a lot of talented wingers at the moment. I think our strength lies in central defence, central midfield, and I think we've got very good wing-back type players. So yeah, I think when you look at the whole squad, I would favour that system, and I hope he perseveres with it.
Okay, so just to tell everybody what the team that this is your fantasy first 11. So Randolph in goals. We've got a back three of Rice on the left, Duffy and Coleman. Coleman obviously on the right, and then the wing backs are Robbie Brady and Doherty. It's Arter, McCarthy and Hendrick, the three in midfield, and then up front you've gone for Maguire and Walters. So the first thing that strikes me is we don't have a lot of goals in our team at the moment, Keith.
Jay, we're not going to have a lot of goals in our team, so I think you need to get used to that. What we've got, I think, behind that is we've got real aggressive, physical players, ball-playing wing backs. I think we've got a holding midfielder, James McCarthy. I'm picking this game I'm picking this squad team, everybody fit, obviously, and playing well, or hopefully playing well at club level. Centre halves that are comfortable stepping in. Really like to see Seamus Coleman. I mentioned it during the USA game. I was on commentary, and I would have liked to have seen a little bit like what I suppose Gareth Southgate's done with England with Kyle Walker right-sided centre half and Kieran Trippier as the right wing back. I'd like to see that Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty, because Matt Doherty's had a really good season, but Declan Rice been able to step into midfield. Those wider ones of a back three have to be able to step into those little uncertain areas where there's going to be a bit of congestion to be able to distribute the ball, whereas in its infancy against Turkey we were on different wavelengths. You'd seen Shane Duffy stepping in, hitting long direct balls, some of the midfielders dropping into pockets to try and get it off, and so we need to be singing off the same hymn sheet. But I like the look of the team. Look, I suppose the one thing after I did the team, actually, I realised James McLean wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And I knew you were going to ask me that, so I thought I'm going to get this in. Look, I think he's been outstanding. Where he fits in a three at the back, I'm not quite sure. He played wing back defensively. Forget about it. And you could throw that at Robbie Brady to a degree as well in terms of defending. Obviously, isn't his forte, but he has shown he's capable of it. Whether he'd be able to do that against the top nations, I'm not sure. But I don't like James McLean in playing as a front player. I just don't think it suits him. He can set the tone, and I think he will play there. If this is my team, obviously in Martin's team, he'd be straight in it. So I have got a bit of sympathy for him because he's been outstanding.
In Martin's team, would he be in instead of Johnny Walters? Would he be in instead of Maguire? Where do you think he fits?
Yeah, I think we need John Walters for the style of play Martin employs. I think he'd probably be upside alongside Walters, depending on how sharp Johnny is, how much club football he's getting. It's imperative he moves in the summer, gets playing regularly again. But yeah, he's probably up alongside Walters for me. But I think Seanie Maguire has to start. I think he's had this little bit of rest now in the summer. I know it's been through an injury, but I think that'll do him good, and I think we'll see Sean Maguire again kick on to another level after signing that contract a couple of months ago. That'll be a nice kind of a peace of mind for him, a nice bit of security, and I think it'll allow him to focus again. And every step he's taken in his development, he's taken it very, very well.
Would that team have broken Peruvian hearts on Saturday night, do you reckon, Keith?
Depends how much coaching they get on.
That's a cryptic answer. If they got adequate coaching?
I think we would have given a decent account of ourselves. I think we've seen a lot of mediocrity at the tournament. Understandably so, because there should be more Europeans European teams qualified. Would we have lit it up? No. I think we would have been, depending on what group we got. Obviously, we would have been able to grind it out and probably produce that one really good performance. But I think when you look at our squad, there's a lot of made of it in terms of, look, we haven't got this, we haven't got that. We still have a nucleus of a very good team, and subs to come on, and we've got a little bit of injection of youth over the last few months. Periphery players, the likes of Alan Brown, coming into the equation as well. So look, I think there's reasons to be optimistic.
What about the coaching? You just, when you said with good coaching this team could do anything, what about the coaching at the moment? Is it good enough?
Probably not, no. Because what you've got is, in my opinion, you've got that squad of players that I sent into you yesterday, barring John Walters. I'm trying to look at the most senior ones on the squad I've got in front of me. I think it's only John Walters, maybe Shane Long, because he came over that little bit later to England. All of these players have been coached through an academy system where they get every little detail, they get coached to the umpteenth degree. And Martin doesn't manage in that way. He doesn't manage in that manner. It's player driven. Do they get enough coaching? Do they give enough organisation? No, I don't think so.
That's not going to change. So are we staring down the barrel of a bad qualifying campaign next time around? And like, is this hurtling towards the inevitable where it looks like a manager has stayed on one campaign too much again?
Possibly. I think we need to give it a good go. It's not going to be easy. There's room for error within the next stages of qualification. That's our only saving grace. It's all about a seeding process, the first few games. But we've got tough opposition, Wales and Denmark, as we well know. So it's going to be tricky. I think he has to stick with a similar system. Whether he'll do that, probably not. The players need to know what they're doing. I go back to the way they're used to their club level. They get given all the details. They get given the information early, whether it's set pieces, the way they're playing, patterns of play, phases, whatever way you want to call it. They don't get it at international level. And I know time is of the essence at international level, but I still think we can do a little bit more.
Yeah, it's like, how long does it take to kind of transform that to something where you look around and you think to yourself, this is looking very rosy now? I mean, like, just even reading this morning about Uruguay and Oscar Tabarez, who came in after they failed to qualify for the 2006 World Cup, and some of the quotes that Jonathan Wilson had in his piece in The Guardian saying that the Uruguayans would have bitten your hand off if you'd even given them the style of play that they would have played with the last day against Egypt last Friday. Just the passing style rather than kind of the very one-dimensional approach they used to have in 2006, which is kind of rings familiar to the way Ireland currently are at the moment. Now, granted, obviously, we can't really compare ourselves to Uruguay given the playing resources and the history that they have as a footballing nation, but it seems that they managed to turn that around from 2006 to 2010. I'm not sure, was it a 4-year plan specifically, but it was certainly a plan that's allowed them to qualify for every single major tournament since, and it's been done in a manner which is very attractive on the eye.
The big problem we have is, we all know it's a little bit of a transitional period, whatever way you want to call it. The big issue we have is we are hosting games in 2 years' time. And if we are not at that European Championships, hosting games, playing them in Dublin, it's going to be a disaster. So I think that's a big reason why Martin stayed on with the FAI. They felt he was the best person to get them through to then. And I think that'll be it. I really do. I can't see him going on beyond that. In terms of the evolution of the style of play, I don't think we'll see it under Martin, because Martin manages in a certain way. He will have this squad of players available to him, and at times it's going to be frustrating. At times it'll be player driven. At times Martin might come up with a little bit of magic, or whatever way you want to call it, to get that key result, just to get us over the line. But I think it's going to be tricky in terms of us getting there.
One last question. You've got Coleman as part of a back three. Like, traditionally, when you think back to the Martin O'Neill teams at Celtic and at Villa, when he would have had three at the back, I mean, at Villa it was more actually a two with Richard Dunn and Collins when they were at their absolute peak. But we did have three at the back at the peak at Celtic when they were having those great European nights. He did have rampaging, marauding wing-back. So maybe Coleman can use his pace and be that force on the right side for us, and he can actually put another central defender in there. So it's a we're going to be unbelievably hard to beat, but actually Seamus Coleman is our main attacking outlet, and that's something we could get behind at least.
Yeah, look, that's my back three. I don't think Martin will go with that. I agree with you. I think he goes for physicality. You might see Duffy going to the right, Kevin Long coming into the equation, or Kieran Clark, depending on what he's doing at club level, and as a strong back three. Seamus Coleman is one of our most creative players, and I understand that you're taking that away from areas of the pitch where he's not going to get into. But for the initial part of the attack, where he's able to step into full-back areas, as we see him do time and time again, he's very, very comfortable on it. I would just like to see that little bit of a relationship blossom between him and Matt Doherty. Matt Doherty's head must be falling off, by the way. The season he's had with Wolves going into the Premier League, look, I think defensively he still has a little bit of tweaking to do on his game, and he'll be tested more next year in the Premier League. But to not get involved in any shape or form in those games that have just gone past for Ireland is a disgrace.
West Ham just spent 20 million quid on a defender. Is this something we should be worried about?
Say that again, Jay, just broke up.
West Ham just spent 20 million quid on a defender. Is this something we should be worried about?
Look, my issue with the manager coming in is will he play the same system? Because last year David Moyes played a back five, which obviously gave them another option at centre half. There was an extra body there. So Declan Rice, more often than not, I think he got 25 games in the end, found the place. Will he trust him? Does he see the same things that David Moyes sees? Does he see the same things that we're all starting to see in a green shirt? We can only hope. But I've said this before, we need to do what the Welsh FA have done, where the younger players that have come into the equation, regardless of what's happening at club level, if they don't play much games in the first couple of months of season, he still plays for us.
Yeah.
Now look, you can't do that long term, I understand that, but he still plays for us. He is in our starting 11, and for the short term, I think that's at centre half. For the short term, if he plays a back four, I think it's in a holding midfield capacity if the likes of James McCarthy aren't available, because I don't think we have a lot of talent in there that are natural holding midfielders. But long term, certainly, I think he's a centre half for us. But no, I wouldn't be too worried. But it's going to be interesting to see how it goes pre-season, and obviously the first game of the season, we'd all look the same in the West Ham starting lineup.
People have been tweeting us and getting in touch to say they weren't exactly sure. They didn't see the bit where Richard Cooper did Keith Andrews on the show last night. So just for them, Keith, this is just for them.
Thanks,
have a look.
How do you think, and don't let present company affect you, how do you think Keith Andrews is doing?
I think he's doing a great job, Joe.
Yeah.
I think he's doing really well, I think he's put himself about a bit on the panel. But, he's not willing to necessarily commit to RTE. He's got TV3, he's got RTE, he's got Sky. But I think he's doing a fantastic job. He's infiltrating himself in a fantastic way. His infancy, and I think he's just fantastic at making up the words. And obviously, having said that, the infancy and the general masticate as a collective is doing superbly well for Russia.
I don't fully understand. I think I sort of know.
Yeah, well, I think Peter Collins would understand what that means, but probably the only one that would.
You've made it now, baby.
It was funny. His Roy Keane one was amazing, and his Pierre Collins actually.
How have you found the punditry so far? Is it? It's exactly the same as all the other punditry you've done. It's just these are World Cup games.
Yeah, it's just very different in terms of the teams and the frequency of them. 5 games in the space of 3 days, which was full on. No, it's been good, and you obviously learn how a different company works, how they work things in terms of build up. Obviously, half times you get a little bit more time than you would at Sky, not so much ad breaks. But no, it's been enjoyable. I think overall the World Cup's gone quite well so far, and I can see it heating up even more as the crunch games kick in now over the next week to 10 days.
Owen is all in on Spain at this stage. Having seen all of the contenders really at this point, who's going to win it?
Yeah, I said before the tournament, Spain, Brazil for me. I didn't like the look of the dynamics of the French team. The Germans had some injury issues where they were never going to be up to match speed going into it. Look, the Germans will probably kick on and get very far in the competition. I've no doubt about that. But Spain, in terms of the performance, as good as I've seen, even though they drew. But you can't legislate for the types of goals that Ronaldo scored, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But I thought they were outstanding. And Brazil, Neymar is a little bit of a problem. His ego, the way he goes about things, it's not conducive to a team spirit. But having said that, the manager has been very good in terms of not letting this Brazilian side be as reliant on Neymar as it has been in recent years.
Yeah, sorry, okay, just briefly on that point, because we were talking about this earlier on. I was making the point that if Neymar is injured and if he's out, actually that might not be the worst thing for this Brazil team at the moment, because he hasn't played a competitive game really since February when he got injured. Also hogging the ball, hogging the attention, and it has been about Neymar as opposed to about Brazil. But with him gone, suddenly a bunch of those players can step up and go, actually, you know what, I can be the next superstar that wins a World Cup for Brazil.
Well, Jay, it's not as if they haven't got very, very talented players to come in and replacing Douglas Costa, Firmino. They've got talented players. I think they've got probably 14, 15, 16 players that are top notch. And you're right, Neymar, like, you've got class all around them. It's not as if he's it's not as if it's Salah with Egypt. You know, it's not as if I'll get the ball to him every opportunity. Like Argentina are doing with Messi, by the way. The reliance on him is ridiculous. So I'm with you. I think the balance of the team might end up being better. But I do think he'll stick with him. He's got obviously that little knock that he got in training yesterday. I'm sure that's just much ado about nothing. But I think he'll get sharper. Whether he drops the ego, drops that, and for the greater good of the team, I'm not so sure.
But the balance of Portugal would be better if you took Cristiano Ronaldo out of the team, because everybody's on a level playing field. Like, balance to a certain extent. Once you take out somebody who's so stratospherically better than everybody else, exactly.
Supporting cast is so much better.
Like, I'm not sure do I agree with the idea of balance in this regard. I think sometimes you've got to have a little bit of balance to actually allow the scales to be trampled upon by this outrageous talent.
No chance, Owen. What have you been sniffing this morning?
What?
What have you been sniffing this morning? It's not Portugal for me, right? Portugal, he's the only world-class player. With Brazil, they've got probably not world-class, but they've got unbelievably talented players that can still win football games, like Coutinho, for instance. Jesus will get up and over. Will he get the goals? I'm not so sure. But they've got ridiculous talent all around it. Portugal are a little bit different. They have to bow down to Ronaldo a little bit. And even on the subject of Ronaldo, they aren't, I know he got a hat-trick the other night, they are not as reliant on Ronaldo as they have been in recent years, because they have evolved as a side. They've got better attacking players, the likes of Bernardo Silva. Guedes is a very, very talented player. So they do carry a threat attacking-wise even without Ronaldo, but obviously he is still the talisman.
Did they just not show up the other night? Then the rest of the attacking players, like Bernardo Silva, obviously hooked. Andre Silva, disappointing enough in my view. Is it a matter of just being Spain and how strong they were defensively? Yeah,
I think the way that Spain dominated the ball, they were chasing shadows for large parts, especially in the second half. I thought they were sensational the way they kept the ball. It was Spain at their brilliant best. Isco, I thought, was outstanding, and what they've done, the Spanish team, which I thought was more evident the other night against Portugal, was they recognised the strengths of Diego Costa. They hit him a little bit earlier, because they haven't always done that. You've seen Diego Costa making runs, not get the ball, become frustrated, become a little bit agitated. And that's when you know what he's like when he gets into that state. He's liable to do anything. He becomes a bit of a cannon. So I think they've recognised his strengths and they've started to utilise it a little bit more.
Keith, great stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Cheers, lads. See you soon.
It's Keith Andrews with us there. He's going to be on the radio this evening on Off the Ball as well from 7 o'clock.